celibate as opposed to marrying altogether. But if you have to marry, if it's something that you have to do, then you should only take one wife. Again, this was something that Paul had come up with, again, trying to introduce this particular affair to the Romans at that particular time. And there are many other points that I could mention. For example, there were many movements throughout the Christian history that actually called to referring back to the scriptures alone, not, it's called sola scriptura, not allowing or relying upon the opinions and the thoughts of the theologians, but to live according to the scriptures alone. There were many movements in the history of Christianity that called to this, and they argued that polygamy was from the scriptures, and therefore it was legal and permissible in the confines of the religion of Christianity. Those are just some of the points that I wanted to make historically.
Okay, so that gives us a little historical background and shows us that the issue of polygamy is not an Islamic issue, it's not a Christian issue, but it's an issue that's been around predating Islam, and an issue that preceded the Romans, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. One of the things that we want to address,
I think it's important. I mean, it's good certainly to have the historical perspective, but I think it's also important to address polygamy today.
Okay.
And how is it practiced today?
How is it practiced today among the Muslims?
Yes.
Okay. So why don't I ask that question? How is polygamy practiced today among the Muslims?
Well, first of all, in keeping with the traditions of the Islamic religion, that one of the main things about our faith is that we strive to follow the religion in the way that the Prophet Muhammad practiced it and the way that the companions practiced it. And we believe that Islam is revelation that came from the creator of the heavens and the earth. So what he prescribed for that community over 1,400 years ago is that which will be sufficient for mankind until the day of judgment. So it's not like we have the situation where, okay, polygamy was something that was okay for 1,428 years ago, but the creator of the heavens and the earth didn't know what were going to be the way society was going to live 1,428 years later. So the point that I'm making is that we stick to the traditions of Islam from the text and the sources, which are the Quran, which is the revelation that came from our Lord, our Creator, Allah, and secondly from the prophetic traditions of our Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. So we strive to practice that religion in the same fashion and same way that the Prophet did over 1,428 years ago, without any contradiction to modern life. Allah clearly states in the Quran, marry the women that please you, 2, 3, or 4. And if you are not able to deal justly between women, then only one, or what your right hands possess. The scholars have explained this particular verse is that Allah, in establishing the life of the community, that polygamy was actually used as a means of helping to cure some of the social ills that we find. For example, in every society, I have some data here with me, in every society we have a disproportionate amount of women as opposed to men. Women
as we do today.
Yes, and I mentioned actually in D.C. the number is 7 to 1 actually. So what Islam has done is what it has come to do is it's come to help this social ill. So what are we going to do now if we have the surplus of women and we have no men to marry them? So what is going to be the outcome of that? Well, we've seen the outcome of that. We've seen the extramarital affairs. We've seen adultery. We've seen the fornication. We've seen the spread of sexually transmitted diseases. We've actually seen the sex industry become a multi-billion-dollar industry because individuals are going outside of marriage. So to get back to the point is that this act of polygamy has to be, as the verse mentions, it has to be done in accordance with that which is in the book of Allah and the Quran, and according to the traditions of the Prophet. So we have to be just and equitable between our wives. In other words, a man has to spend upon them equally.
Well, can we go back a second? Because one of the conversations I certainly have been having with Muslim women over the past week or so is this whole notion of whether or not a woman is kind of coerced into this situation.
Coerced?
Well, the reason why I say that is because I personally don't believe, and this is, other folks may have a different position, but I think that once you take your first wife, for instance, and I know in your religion, this particular woman is supposed to embrace or supposed to accept the fact that you may at some point in time take 2, 3, 4 wives, correct?
She accepts that when she accepts Islam.
She accepts, exactly. But what I'm saying is, I don't believe that a number of women enter into those relationships or enter or or become a part of Islam, thinking that their husbands are actually going to take on 2, 3, or 4 wives. And so that's why I talk about coercion, because oftentimes you have brothers who are Muslim who date women or somehow or another establish a relationship with a woman who's not Muslim. And so therefore she converts to, I guess that's part of the, I don't want to say process, but is that a demand that a Muslim man must marry a Muslim woman?
A Muslim man can marry other than a Muslim woman. But
okay.
A Muslim woman cannot marry other than a Muslim
man. Sure, but I'm sure you will agree that a number of women certainly convert to Islam.
And a number of men, absolutely.
As a result of the relationship. So I'm saying that many of them don't necessarily embrace the fact. It's kind of put on them, I guess you want to say.
Yeah, I want to address that. Well, the first thing we have to understand is that Allah has mentioned clearly in His book, the Quran, that there's no compulsion in religion. In other words, when we accept Islam, we accept Islam wholeheartedly. We've also been commanded in the Quran to enter to Islam wholeheartedly. In other words, you don't take some of the book and leave other portions of the book. This is not the message that Islam calls its believers to follow. We follow a belief that what has come to us in the Quran is from revelation. It's from our Creator, who knows the condition of His creation better than we do. So therefore, in His allowing polygyny, then it's not something here that opinion or someone's feelings would take precedence over that which is good for the society as a whole. With regards to being coerced, then there's no coercion. I mean, a woman, when she enters into Islam, she understands that a man has the right to take 2, 3, and 4 wives. This is something that is well known within the
But what kind of instruction, because we live in a society where certainly polygamy is practiced, but I wouldn't say that it's the dominant practice.
Oh no, we practice dominant. We practice a type of monogamy here that is called serial monogamy. We don't actually practice true or full monogamy as the sociologists have mentioned. Full monogamy or true monogamy is when you marry one partner and you live with that one partner for the entire duration of your life.
No, but
serial monogamy is when you have marriage, divorce, or you're with multiple partners throughout your life, which is, as we mentioned, is called serial monogamy, and some actually call it serial polygamy because it's closer to multiple partners as opposed to what is true monogamy. So we're not a monogamous society in truth.
All right, but what I'm saying is, if in fact, I'm married to a Muslim man and he's going to take on a second wife or third wife, is there some type of, training or some type of process in which you help folks kind of make that transition? Because I'm just trying to understand, how does one just all of a sudden...
You want to know if someone comes home one day and say, baby,
well, I know.
I'm married to another wife. Or,
no, I have heard of situations in which a man comes home and talks about the fact that he wants to take on another wife.
Okay.
I mean, my thinking is, okay, if in fact I've been with you 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, what does that mean? What does that mean in terms of our relationship?
It means absolutely nothing. With regards to the issue of taking a second or a third or a fourth wife, one of the things that we have to understand is that jealousy is a natural emotion. It's a natural feeling that a person may have. But there's a difference between being jealous and a difference between having hatred for something. The wives of the Prophet, who were the best of women, they were jealous sometimes. We have a story where one time the Prophet was at the house of one of his wives, Salama, and he was having some guests for dinner. And he's at the house of Aisha, and he was having some guests for dinner. Salama, who was another one of his wives, actually sent a dish or a plate of food over to that particular house. When Aisha saw that, she became jealous and she knocked that plate out of the hand of the Prophet, and she became very angry. So the Prophet said, this is from the jealousy of your mother. So there's no doubt that jealousy is a reality of polygyny, of the life that one, when he lives in a polygamous situation. But